Welcome back to New Realities. I'm very happy to be here with my good friend, Doc.
With all the disturbing things going on in the world right now.
Oh, what is that? Oh, sorry.
Are you?
Okay, Dr. Joe Wallach and Paul Andrews. And we're going to pick up the conversation where we left off last week with Doc Wallach, going deeper into building immunity, health, and vitality. I mean, that's some of the backbone to what Doc has been an expert on for years. I don't want to say how long, but let's start, Doc, with the story about you finding the cure to an illness at 9 years old. Can you give us a little bit of?
Sure, I'd be honored to. Thank you so much, Alan, and appreciate you and all your efforts you put on and your people. Thank you so much. Well, my story, people always ask, well, how did you get started in this, Wallach? Right now I'm 80 years old. And I started in this when I was 9. Began when I was 4 years old. They didn't have a name for what I had back then, but I had behavioral problems. And today it would be called autism with Tourette syndrome. Okay. And so basically I had, I was very pushy, very violent. We lived on a little cattle farm in Missouri. And over a period of 5 years, between age 4 and 9, my mother and father had taken me to see 20 different doctors, and they didn't have a name for what I had, but they wanted to put me on medication. My parents put me on medication. And basically what they did was say, look, we're going to have to institutionalize him. And I asked my mother, what does that mean? She says, well, they're going to put you in a hospital. I said, well, how long am I going to be there? And she says, well, maybe for the rest of your life. And so I didn't like that. So that night, when everybody else went to bed, I started thinking, okay, why is it that I have this? I live on the farm. I'm eating the same food that the animals are eating. They don't have the same problem. And so I thought, well, maybe they got something in their food, you know, in their little alfalfa pellets that we don't have. And so I began to eat alfalfa pellets. And to make a long story short, in 3 days' time, I was cured after 5 years of getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So, it was one of those things. After about a couple of weeks in church, people would look at me and whisper and point. And finally, one day, a little old lady came up to me and said, Joel, remember, I'm only 9 years old. Joel, yes, ma'am. She says, I hear tell you can get rid of my diabetes. I says, well, ma'am, I'm only 9 years old. I don't know anything. I don't even know what diabetes is. I don't know how I can help you. Well, I'm told you could reverse it. And so that night, I started reading up, you know, in the dictionaries, what's diabetes and so forth. And I realized when I was 9 that type 2 diabetes was just a simple nutritional deficiency disease. It wasn't, in fact, a genetic disease as doctors were being taught and teaching. So to, again, make a long story short, I began to heal people, and I had what we called the duck diabetes formula. We had the pig arthritis formula. When I'm 9 years old, I'm regrowing people's knee cartilage and their disc between their vertebrae and their bones and getting rid of their osteoporosis. I'm only 9 years old. And so when I graduated high school, went to University of Missouri Agricultural School, and I had to work my way through. So I worked in the pathology department. And to make a long story short, 1964, I graduated veterinary school. I had my degree in agriculture. I was halfway through my degree in pathology. And I went to Africa for a couple of years and worked on the white rhino conservation project for Marlin Perkins. And he used my studies and things to get a grant. He used my studies to get a grant from the National Institutes of Health. It was $25 million, and they called me back to be the pathologist on the project. And I 10 years, I did 20,000 autopsies, and my thesis is in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure because I proved there were no such things as genetic diseases. There were no such things as genetically transmitted birth defects. So that's my story.
Let's go back to that time where you were 9 and just want to examine that just a little bit. So what were you eating at 9? And then what shifted and what did you notice in your body with the alfalfa? So talk about that.
Okay, well, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Here's the deal.
Okay.
Okay. And the deal is, let me take a message here.
Okay. Great.
The
Thanks.
deal is, back then and even today, the biggest source of food for everybody was wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Wheat, barley, rye, and oats. So you're eating oatmeal for breakfast. You're eating the breakfast of champions. You're eating Wheaties. You're having pancakes and waffles. You're having spaghetti for dinner. I mean, it's bread. You're making bread. You're baking your own biscuits and muffins and things, cakes. I mean, everything was gluten. Croutons in your salad, wheat, barley, rye, and oats. And when you eat gluten, within weeks, you start getting damage to your small intestines. And it goes at varying speeds depending on the percentage of gluten you're eating in your meals. The more gluten, the faster you have damage. And you start getting outward symptoms of these diseases, such as behavioral problems. You get asthma, you get skin problems, eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis. You get irritable bowel syndrome. You get celiac disease. These are all caused by eating gluten. Okay, now when you have damage to your intestine with celiac disease and Crohn's disease and irritable bowel syndrome and leaky gut syndrome, you can't absorb nutrients very efficiently. So even if you're supplementing, you're going to get all these nutritional deficiency diseases, which doctors say are genetic. They're not, they're just nutritional deficiency diseases. Well, when I gave up the gluten and started eating alfalfa, there's no gluten in alfalfa. Plus, those little alfalfa pellets we were feeding the calves had the 90 essential nutrients in them, because we don't have health insurance to take care of animals' health problems. If we had to call a veterinarian out every time an animal got sick and pay the veterinarian out of our pockets, every farm would go bankrupt. So we learned that if we fed them these 90 essential nutrients and gave them alfalfa and put them on the pasture, that they would get all the nutrients they needed, and we eliminated all their diseases. Okay, it was like crazy. And of course, I'll jump ahead a little bit here, because when I came back from Africa, I was 10 years on that project. In 1977, when the project was over and my thesis was being put into the Smithsonian Institute, I was hired by the University of Georgia in Atlanta, Georgia, to be a pathologist at Grady Memorial Hospital, the medical school. And also I was working for NASA at the Yerkes Primate Center as a pathologist. And that was a big thing, working for NASA, you know, as a kid, 27 years old, my goodness gracious, it was something. And so to make a long story short, within weeks, I ran into the first non-human case of cystic fibrosis, did my research and found out that it wasn't genetic, as everybody thought. It was a simple nutritional deficiency disease. And I got permission to do biopsies on the other 29 baby monkeys in the colony, and they all had, quote, cystic fibrosis. We gave them the nutrient, got them off of gluten, which was in the monkey pellets, had to switch monkey pellets to alfalfa, okay? And every one of them were cured in weeks of their cystic fibrosis, supposed to be a genetic disease, and none of them were related in any way, shape, or form other than they were monkeys. And I got it ready for publication, and they fired me. They said, Wallach, you must be sniffing glue. Everybody knows that the cystic fibrosis is genetic. I said, well, you know, I purposely saved blood and tissue and everything. You can run your own test and see if I'm correct. No, you're so far off base, you're fired. So they fired me, okay, in 1978, and that's when I went back to school and became a naturopathic physician so I could treat people. Now, to make a long story short, as these newspaper articles started going out, and I had been on, when I figured out that this was cystic fibrosis, not a genetic disease, I was in every newspaper in the world, truly every newspaper in the world, every day, you know, for 3 months with a story, and they were interviewing me and calling me and interviewing me and writing me, and we didn't have emails back then. And I was contacted by Jerry Lewis and you know, the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Right. He said, do you think this would be helpful for muscular dystrophy? I said, yes. You know, give me the charts of some, and they gave me charts of 100 kids with muscular dystrophy. I interviewed them all, got them on a particular program for muscular dystrophy, cured 100 of them, gave Jerry Lewis all the charts with all the cures. He got so excited. I couldn't have seen a human being more excited than Jerry Lewis. So he took it to the Muscular Dystrophy Association. They fired him and shut off the telethon that they had been running for 20 years because they figured he was smoking pot or something, because he was so crazy, because everybody knew that it was a genetic thing. And he died 2 years later, and I'm sure that that broke his heart. And that's one of the reasons why he died 2 years later, was because it broke his heart after all the years he worked with them, all the money he raised for the research. And they were never really believing the research. And when I published it, they went crazy.
What are the main, what's the mainstream so invested in?
Okay, well, the mainstream is invested in the medical system. Right now, they're killing Americans because they want you to listen to Fauci. Fauci is running America right now, okay? Because he's telling people you got to wear a mask, you wash your hands. I'm going to give an example. Let's go back to a disease called malaria. It had been around for thousands of years. For 600 years, in South America, where the fever, they called it. They didn't know it was a parasite. They just called it the fever for 600 years. But they knew that the bark from the cinchona tree, which had quinine in it, would kill the fever. And so the Jesuits used to pass it out at the churches in South America and Mexico and stuff in southern United States and the islands. And they would cure people of their fever with quinine from the cinchona bark. So they called it Jesuit bark, is what they called it, because Jesuits were using it. Well, to make a long story short, there was a British guy. He was an 18-year-old medical student in 1852. He was in medical school in India, which was a province, out of England, protectorate or captive or whatever you want to call them, a territory of England. And this medical student, the microscope came out in 1857. So he began to look at blood from these people with the fever under the microscope, and he saw the red blood cells had a little black dot in it. It was a perfectly round little black dot in every one of the red blood cells, which he never saw any before. And he looked it up, couldn't find it in any books or anything. And he thought, well, maybe this is a parasite. And of course, they would treat the people with the quinine and it would go away. And then the blood didn't have the parasites anymore. So he wrote it up. He got a Nobel Prize in 1902. Okay. His name, they knighted him. He became Sir Ronald Ross at age 21. Okay, because he had figured out that a parasite, he actually caught a bunch of mosquitoes and looked at and fed his patients or his friends to the mosquitoes. And then he killed the mosquitoes and looked in their stomach, and he found the red blood cells of humans with a little black dot in it. So he recognized that these mosquitoes were transmitting the fever. Okay, wow. Now he's 18 years old. Okay, now in 1902, there was a Swiss guy, okay, by the name of Paul Mueller, M-U-L-L-I-E-R. Paul Mueller, he's a Swiss guy, and he invents DDT. Now he hears in the newspapers about this parasite.
For people who don't know, that was an insecticide that killed bugs, insects, right? Yes.
It's an insecticide that kills insects.
Right.
Okay, now this is, and he figured that out. Let's see here. It was in, he got, in 1939, okay, just before the Second World War. And he started spraying the swamps with his DDT. And in 3 months' time, he eliminated the fever. He eliminated malaria in the world in 3 months that they'd been fighting for thousands of years. And by 600 years, their rich people could get by the quinine and cure themselves, but 3 months later they get bitten again and get it again.
Wow.
Well, by spraying the swamps and killing the mosquitoes, he ended malaria.
Amazing. Amazing.
Okay, well, this is where we're at with the COVID virus. We're at the same thing with the COVID virus. We're at the same thing as they were 600 years before DDT. Okay, they think, oh, wash your hands and put a mask on and everything's hunky-dory. The secret here, Alan, is that little kids that are 3 years old, 6 months old, 5 months old, or excuse me, 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, when they get the COVID virus, they get a minor common cold-like symptom.
Right.
Never kills little kids. Now, you look at somebody who's 65, 75, 80, they all die from COVID. The average death age of COVID virus is 80. So what's the difference between an 80-year-old should have lots of immunity accumulated over 80 years compared with a 3-year-old who gets common cold symptoms, okay, from the same infection? Well, somebody who's 65, 75, and 80, they've been eating gluten for 45, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Their intestines are dead. And this is why in the Spanish flu, okay, which was 1918, right? 1918. The Spanish flu, 100 years ago, in India, they had 110 million get the Spanish flu, H1N1. They had 20 million people die from it. We had 675,000 people die. In India, they had 20 million die. Why is that? Because for 1,000 years, India had been eating gluten because wheat was a wild grass in India, Iran, Iraq, and Pakistan for 8,000 years. They've been eating wheat, and they were all dying by bleeding to death. They were bleeding to death, okay? And that was the cause of death from the Spanish flu. They'd bleed into their lungs, they'd bleed in their intestines, they'd bleed out of their eyes, they'd bleed everywhere in their skin because their bone marrow was all scar tissue because they couldn't maintain their bone marrow, which is your immune system. They couldn't make platelets, so they're bleeding to death. They couldn't make red blood cells, replace the ones they were losing by bleeding. They couldn't make white blood cells, which is your immune system in your bone marrow, which would go and attack and kill and eat the viruses. And so the Spanish flu killed the adults.
So
okay?
are you saying
go ahead.
Cure, yeah, go ahead. I mean,
the cure for the COVID virus is not washing your hands. Washing your hands and putting on a mask is kind of like taking quinine for the fever. You know, you're going to have an immediate impact on one person.
It's like putting a
Band-Aid, which is not going to go away until they started spraying the swamps with DDT and killing the vector, killing the transmitter. It ended it in 3 months after thousands of years. We'll do the same thing with COVID-19. If everybody gives up gluten, and starts eating the 90 essential nutrients and lots of vegetables and sweet potatoes and rice, like I've been doing for the rest of my life, okay?
I'll tell people how to
eat like an Asian. Eat like an Asian. And that's why right now, the people in India, which had 20 million people die from the Spanish flu right now, they have 30% less deaths than the state of California. Now, India has 1.3 billion people. California has 39 million people. And yet California has 30% more deaths from COVID virus than India does because they're eating rice right now. They switched over to rice right after the First World War because they could get more yield in their swamps with rice than they could wheat. And we're eating wheat, breakfast of champions, and oatmeal for breakfast. And doctors are saying whole grains are good for you. Eat more whole grains. All those doctors should be put in jail.
But you put together these essential nutrients in a special formula that people can find out about it.
Yes, it's called the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course you take that 1 per 100 pounds of body weight. You throw in our MSM tablets with it, which will help rebuild the bone marrow so you can make white blood cells and platelets and antibodies, which is your immune system. And it's all going to go away in weeks.
Right.
But if you want to keep playing like we're playing and wearing masks and washing your hands, and right now, you know, when you look at I threw my piece of paper away. Here we go. When you look at the number of people who have died in the United States right now, since October, is 91,000 people have died from the COVID virus. Okay, we're a third of the world's deaths. The United States has a third of the world's deaths. And in India, they only have 2,800. In California, we've had 3,261.
So
I take that back. It's gone up. In California, we've had 3,334 deaths. India only has 2,872.
You're saying it's directly related to gluten intake. Directly.
That's correct, because you cannot absorb the nutrients necessary to maintain your immune system. No matter how much no matter how many vitamins and minerals you're taking orally, if you're eating gluten, you're just throwing your money away and you're going to die early.
So that's the other thing I want to talk to you about, and also invite some other people in the room. You're saying we're not absorbing minerals. So that
and vitamins.
And vitamin, that's actually aging us because it's sucking the precious minerals out of our vitality. We don't have the vitality because we don't have the minerals, so we can't rejuvenate ourselves. Is that?
That's correct. All vertebrates, including human beings, Alan, are a self-repairing machine. We have all the equipment. We have all the equipment to maintain, repair ourselves to well beyond 100. I mean, 2,000 years ago, they know you could live to be 120. Today, the longest lived peoples that are documented are 160 and 180. Okay, so we know this. This is documented. So why do we have our average lifespan in the United States is 70 something? Okay, and that's because we're eating gluten and not supplementing. Because when a patient goes to a doctor and they got let's say they got 8 different diseases, that tells you right away they're not absorbing because they got 8 different diseases, all of which are nutritional deficiencies, like diabetes and arthritis and high blood pressure and heart disease and asthma, skin disease. Those are all nutritional deficiencies. And the mother's had 3 babies with birth defects. It's all nutritional deficiencies, okay? So we know we have the problem. And so when somebody goes to the doctor and says, look, you're treating me for my diabetes, you're treating for me with painkillers for my arthritis, shouldn't I be taking some vitamins and minerals? The doctor will wave them off and say, no, don't waste your money on that sort of stuff. Who you been talking to? Some hippie or something? No. We'll give you the medication, get rid of your symptoms, everything will be fine. But don't waste your money on those things. You're just wasting your money. Don't take them. But do eat whole grains, good for you. Eat more gluten. And so they're telling you not to supplement and eat more gluten. It's exactly 1,000% the wrong thing to say.
So the thing that I want to know from you, people age, they get older because they don't have the minerals, they have to take it from their bones or their hair or their skin. Is that
they never absorb it? Well, if you're not absorbing it, it's not in your bones, you get osteoporosis, you start shrinking. And that's why little old people shrink and they get osteoporosis. I have a new book coming out, Alan. It's actually at the printer right now. It's called It's All in Your Head. There's 25 different diseases you get alone just from osteoporosis of the skull. And people go to neurologists and they get surgery and they get, ear implants and they have eye surgery and they have, they get their spinal cord being squeezed as it's coming out of the skull, and you get paralysis in your arms and your back and kind of like sciatica in your shoulders. And they say, oh, we got to do surgery because your nerves are being squeezed. And you have carpal tunnel syndrome and all that. No, it's just osteoporosis of the skull. So you take your 90 essential nutrients, you take your healthy brain and heart pack, you throw in some vitamin D3, you throw in some of our MSM, which are the sulfur compounds that actually help rebuild your bone marrow so you can make all your repair and defense organisms, defense systems to go after the viruses. And suddenly now you're like a 5-year-old kid with the COVID. And that's why there's some people who, they test positive, they're asymptomatic. They don't have any symptoms. Well, who are these people? Well, I guarantee you that the percentage of Asians who are symptom-free, but they're positive for COVID, are higher than European backgrounds because they're living on rice and sweet potatoes, no gluten.
Right.
And they're eating chicken livers with minerals in it.
But my theory, going back to the source, so people get osteoporosis because the vital organs, the heart, the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, need those minerals to function. And because they're not getting the minerals in their diet, they have to take it from their bones. Is that the reason?
Well, that's if they put it in their bones. I mean, you can have kids with osteoporosis that are getting fractures and they're 8 inches short. There's no guarantee you're going to grow if you don't have the minerals to grow. And that's why, there's some kids where, their grandfather was 6'5" and the kid is 4'2" and he's 25 years old. That's because he wasn't able to absorb the nutrients to grow his bones, even though he had the genetic equipment to be 6'5". He wasn't getting the nutrients to feed the system to get there.
So, Doc, you're saying it's an absorption problem.
Basically it's an absorption problem. Just like with malaria, it was a parasite problem. It was a vector problem, where the mosquitoes were taking it from one person to the next.
So we have to reformat our digestive system is what you're really saying here.
We have to reformat the digestive system. We have to supplement with all 90. You cannot get them from your food. Plants only require 3 elements from the soil to make good seeds for the next generation. Vertebrates, including human beings, require 60. If you're just eating well, quote unquote, you're 57 short. Even if you're absorbing 100%, you're 57 short. Nutritional minerals, Alan, do not occur in a uniform blanket around the crust of the earth. They occur in veins like chocolate ripple ice cream or gold and silver, veins. They don't occur in a uniform blanket. Neither does iron or chromium or vanadium or copper or zinc. None of those things occur in a uniform blanket around the crust of the earth. They all occur in veins. That's why they have gold mines here. 1,000 miles away, they got a coal mine, so forth. Okay. And so we ship it all over the world in boats and trains and things so everybody gets to use it. But if you're just eating from a local area and there's only, say, 5 minerals in the soil there, you're in trouble. That's why some places, the people in this area, they all have diabetes. There's a high rate of diabetes in this area, because they're all inbreeding and all that kind of stuff. No, just the nutrients that prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes are not there.
So you need the 60 if you have 50 or 55. It's not as good as this incredible package that you put together where you actually get everything your body needs, because
That's correct.
One thing, you don't have the cogs and the wheels to make the system turn.
Yeah, you got it, Alan. How many nutrients are in a face mask?
I don't know how many.
How many nutrients? How many nutrients are in latex gloves?
Like they probably take the nutrients from your body.
Okay,
Doc,
so there's the problem.
Doc, is there a role for zinc in building your immune system?
Oh, absolutely. Zinc is one of the 60 essential minerals, right? And particularly your lymphocytes, your T lymphocytes are activated by your thymus. Well, the T lymphocytes require zinc to maximize, to be at 100%, to be able to go kill and eat the virus. If the T lymphocytes are activated by the thymus and you don't have zinc as a cofactor for them to work, you might only get 10% effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
You'll lose as much as 90% if your T lymphocytes don't have access to zinc.
Is there a good zinc product that we can buy, Doc?
Well, the 90 essential nutrients, it's all in there. Of course, we have the plant minerals with 78 minerals in there, including the 60 essential minerals. We also have, the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. Our basic core program, which is in all our programs, is the Healthy Start Pack, which has 78 minerals in it, including zinc. But we do have a little lozenge that tastes like raspberries. It's about the size of a dime. It's kind of a chewable, suckable lozenge for kids. We made it up for kids. And I take 2 of those twice a day, along with my other 90 essential nutrients. And it tastes great. The kids love them. And it'll help their T lymphocytes be stronger and do a better job of killing the virus. And so we do sell those as a zinc. Okay, it's just called zinc. And it comes in a little blue label bottle. But that's an add-on to the 90 essential nutrients. Okay, in these times, I probably, I only weigh 142 pounds, but it's one of those things where I take enough supplements. I take 2 servings of 90 essential nutrients, 90 tablets, pills, and capsules twice a day. Okay. I do that twice a day. And I've been doing it for 71 years, Paul and Alan. I've been doing it for 71 years, twice a day.
Yeah. Show them your bone density, Doc. Show the people how your wrists there, because I'm very impressed. I know, 80 years old, and you haven't lost any bone. And you're incredible.
No, I'm maintaining bone. And of course, I've been in several accidents and had injuries, which I've healed from, at age 80 and stuff like that, because I'm very active and travel and still horseback ride and all that kind of stuff. And so it's one of those things where you should be at 120, 160, repairing like a 3-year-old who's eating rice and sweet potatoes like an Asian 3-year-old and getting the 90 essential nutrients. Now, in the old days, most people got their minerals from taking the wood ashes out of the wood stove in the fireplace and putting them in the garden. But the wood ashes may have only had 3 minerals in them. Some places the wood ashes had 5. Some places the wood ashes had 12. Some places the wood ashes had 22, and so on. And so the places where the wood ashes had more and more and more of the minerals in it, those are people who are healthier and vigorous and could work all day and never get tired and never had injuries and didn't have high blood pressure and didn't have diabetes and so forth. They would heal quickly from injuries and say, they got good genes, honey. Do you say that to your daughter? You want to marry one of those sons of that family because, you know, you'll have good, healthy kids because it's a genetic thing and blah. No, they just were burning wood where the trees grew in a place where there were lots of minerals in the soil, and they would put the wood ashes. The minerals didn't burn. It was just the carbon in the wood burnt. They would put the wood ashes in the garden. And grandma, when nobody was looking, she used to take a spoon in the wood stove and eat the wood ashes straight right out of the wood stove.
Wow. But Doc, I'm interested. You have 90 essential minerals. How were you able
No,
to
90 essential nutrients.
nutrients?
It's 60 essential minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 3 fatty acids.
That's everything that we need. But
Yes.
how were you able to formulate, let's just say, the mineral? How were you, what was, because you're a scientist and a doctor, of course, but what was your process of creating this formulas?
Okay, well, first of all, we looked at the places where people naturally lived the longest. It was actually written up as a book by a New York Times investigative reporter by the name of James Hilton. In 1930, he wrote the book, Lost Horizon. They made it into a movie in 1933. This guy, James Hilton, was an aggressive, vicious reporter, okay? And so the New York Times were hearing about this guy, a Dr. Lee in China, who's 260 something years old, and they couldn't believe it. They said, this guy's got to be defrauding people. So they take this investigative reporter and they send him to China. He spends a year following this guy. He spends a year going through all the records. They take fingerprints of this guy and they go to stuff that he had handled as a kid 200 years earlier. It's the same fingerprints.
Wow, incredible.
Okay. And so he proved that this guy was really 267 years old when he died. He followed him for a year and it was written up and became, again, the book Lost Horizon became the movie 3 years later, the Lost Horizon. And they invented the term Shangri-La,
Right,
to be the mythical place where everybody lived forever.
right.
Okay. Well, that's because the Giltard Glacier grinds down this canyon and grinds up all the rocks. It just so happens that's the only place in the world where all 60 essential minerals are in one place. The glacier grinds it up, and this Dr. Lee and these people in Hunza, okay, in Hunza, the Hunza people, they're the longest lived people on Earth. They live on the floodplain, so this glacier would flood every year, and all these minerals would go into their farmlands every year. They'd grow their crops, their rice and their sweet potatoes and stuff. And then the next year it'd flood and it would grow again. So it never ran out because it flooded every year for thousands of years and was rehabbing the soil every year with these 60 essential minerals.
Wow. So you're
Doc,
saying,
Place on Earth.
go ahead,
Doc,
Paul.
what about the Vilcabamba?
Well, Vilcabamba are very close to these people. Okay, they're very close. And so they live downriver from them, actually.
I see. So they're both in the same area, having the same
Both in the
experience
same area. Vilcabambas, the Hunzas.
of
okay.
the glacial
Yeah,
mill?
that's right. It's the Giltard Glacier. And actually here in North America and in Europe, the people who are the healthiest and live the longest and the farmers that were most successful were people who bought land in the floodplains near the rivers. As the rivers would flood, the silt would renew the soil every year. The crops would suck up those nutrients. And where there was only maybe 3 minerals in that flood water, the babies would eat their cribs. You know, they'd stand there with their hands on the rails and they'd chew on the crib rail.
Yeah.
That's why they put that fiberglass sheath on the crib rails now.
Yeah.
Prevent the baby from eating the cribs. They used to call it cribbing.
Yeah.
Now, when a horse is deficient in those same minerals, the horse will eat the top rail in the barn stall. And so they called it cribbing because the horse was mimicking what the baby was doing when the baby was deficient. Cribbing, eating the crib.
Gotcha.
That's where the term cribbing came from in horses.
So, Doc, how depleted is the soil in America? I mean, is it so depleted that we're just not getting anywhere near what we need
for
to
100
get?
years, for 100 years, Paul, the farmers have only been putting in NPK, which is what the commercial fertilizers are, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, because they're being paid on yield, tons and bushels per acre.
Right.
And you put NPK fertilizer in and you water it, guess what? You get maximum yields, tons per acre. Now the nutritional value is different. Now a farmer's not dumb. And so what he does is he puts the 90 essential nutrients in the alfalfa pellets, which he gives his calves and his lambs and his chickens and his pigs, so they don't get sick, so he doesn't have to pay a veterinarian to be treated for all the diseases. but he's got insurance for his family. So nobody cares if they get sick because they go to the doctor and insurance pays for it.
Right. So is there any food?
No, wait. Let me ask you a question, Doc. So what if you were to withhold, selectively some minerals from, say, chickens or calves?
They would get a disease. I can give chickens type 2 diabetes anytime I want. I can give sheep type 2 diabetes anytime I want. I can give pigs and horses and cows and sheep. I could give them a goiter anytime I want, just by avoiding the nutrients that are necessary for thyroid health. Okay. And the islet cells in the pancreas to make insulin. You take away the nutrients that are necessary to make those things happen, they get the disease. You give them the nutrients back and the disease goes away. If you treat them with drugs, you eliminate the symptom, but you don't eliminate the disease.
Right.
If you're lowering your blood sugar, you still have the problem of your pancreas not making enough insulin.
So what if you took copper away from, like, just copper away, and
okay,
and does
you get white hair?
I'm sorry.
You get white hair. You get
Okay.
white, silver, and gray hair when you're copper deficient. Yeah, I'm laughing. Okay. And also you get a breakdown of the elastic fibers in your blood vessels. Okay. Your veins, you get varicose veins. In your arteries, you get aneurysms. You're going to die of a sudden death of a ruptured aneurysm. Okay. You can also get a certain type of liver cirrhosis caused by copper deficiency. You can also get a certain type of goiter because the thyroid also requires copper as one of the nutrients necessary to make thyroid hormones. So you get all these different things going on. On the average, there's about 8 to 10 to 12 different diseases you get from one nutrient missing. Now, when people have, and you have people in your family that have high blood pressure and diabetes and arthritis and thyroid issues and adrenal issues, and they got ringing in the ears, and they have dental problems, and they got eczema, they have carpal tunnel syndrome, all these sort of things, and they got liver cirrhosis, and they're not even drinking alcohol. Well, that's because they're missing all these nutrients. Even if they're supplementing because they're eating gluten, they can't absorb it.
Is there any food that contains some of the vital mineral? I mean, is there any food that contains all of it? No, you're saying. But is there any?
Only in Hunza, near the Giltar Glacier, because they're growing the crops in the soil that are flooded every year. Okay, and those minerals are being replenished in there. Floodplains around the earth, some places might have 12 of those minerals. In some areas, there might be 22. In some areas, there's only 3. And so in the areas where you have only 3, these are people who are very sick. Their average lifespan in that area may only be 45.
Right.
Okay. And as in the Giltar Glacier in Hunza, okay, between Pakistan and China, the average lifespan is like 160.
Right. Well, no, I appreciate all your research. I think it's so valuable because people are ignorant. Even if they go to nutrition school, whatever that is, they're ignorant.
But they need Paul, or excuse me, Alan, they need to get to the books here. They need to get that little trilogy of books we put together first. It's called Trilogy of Books. Let's Play Doctor. Goes into over 300 different diseases. Okay, they're nutritional deficiencies. Tells you what tests you can do. You can go to the pharmacy without a prescription, get all the test strips your doctor uses in his clinic, right? You get all the same test strips and do all these tests yourself. And you can see if you have diabetes. You can see if you have high blood pressure. You don't need to go to a doctor for that stuff. Get the book, Let's Play Doctor. Get the book, Rare Herbs and Cures. Get the book, Let's Play Herbal Doctor. Get the book, let's see here. Passport to Aromatherapy, all these books. And it's one of those things where, and I'm assuming we're still on here.
Yeah, we're still on.
Okay, because you went dark on me. Okay.
Oh, no, we're here.
But at any rate, okay. But you have to supplement, and you have to, and you can do a hair analysis. The book, Let's Play Doctor, and the book, Rare Herbs and Cures, will tell you how to collect the hair, where to ship it. And the most important piece of information you're going to get from a hair analysis that you have done yourself is if all the bars and the nutrients are below the bottom line, that means you're not absorbing.
Let me just get Carolyn Clancy in here. Carolyn,
okay.
She's believes in what you're saying. She's a supporter of this work. Carolyn,
okay.
do you have a question? for Doc. Do you want to put your camera on, Carolyn? Hello, Carolyn. Is your mic on?
Yes, my mic is on. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
do you
can
want
hear
to
you.
put your
Yes, ma'am.
camera on?
There, okay. You have a beard, but I hear you.
No, do you have a camera, Carolyn?
Oh, boy. Something just happened here.
Okay, let's just keep going. Let's go with the voice.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Okay, let's just ask a question. Just shut up. It's okay, shut up. You have a backlog there. Go
I
ahead.
know, I'm trying to get all this off.
It's okay.
Yeah, you
Okay,
have to turn
so-
down the radio or something because you're getting,
So
Go ahead,
Doc
Carolyn.
Wallach, I've been using your products for many years and had tremendous results. I got started because I could only walk sideways with severe
okay,
pain.
here's the problem. Do you have your radio on? Somebody's got the radio on, so we're hearing radio in the background. You got to
Shut
shut
up your
everything
radio,
down.
but I like what you're saying, Carolyn. I like it. Okay, I think you got it, Carolyn. Go ahead. Continue. So
Okay,
you've been using
So-
the product, yes.
yes, for a number of years. Actually, I remember Doc from many years ago because I had the cassette, Dead Doctors Don't Lie.
Yep.
Gosh, I probably had that thing for 15 years and everything was great. And then something happened, I don't know what, but I had severe knee pain and could only walk sideways.
Okay, well, stop. Let me ask you a question here. Were you eating gluten?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's why you couldn't absorb the nutrients anymore. As you got older, you slowly lost more and more and more of your ability to absorb stuff from your intestines. And finally, when you're at a certain age, 85, 90% of your intestines are damaged. And so you can't absorb nutrients anymore to maintain your tissues, which go away all the time. You have to replace them. So you can't absorb enough nutrients to now begin to replace things. That's why people who, when they're 45, 50, 60, 70 years old, get these things because they've been eating gluten for 30, 40, 50 years. And kids that are 3 years old, they don't have a problem with arthritis usually. I mean, they can if the mother was terribly deficient because she was eating lots of gluten and the baby was breastfed and the gluten's coming through the breast milk and all this kind of stuff. The baby's just getting A and D and E drops and that kind of stuff and no minerals. Because, well, you're getting breast milk, you're getting all the minerals you need. Well, the mother wasn't absorbing it because she's eating gluten. And babies are born with osteoporosis, and so forth. And so that's what's happening. You're very typical here because as you get older, you get more and more of these malabsorption problems. So you got to get rid of the gluten out of your life. Everybody in the household, dog, cat, bird, fish, spouse, kids, caregiver, renters, people who come to clean your house. Everybody's got to be drop dead, gluten-free, no wheat, no barley, rye, and oats. You need to live like an Asian, live on rice and sweet potatoes and millet and buckwheat.
We'll get back to Carolyn, but I don't get the fact that you can catch gluten from other people living in the house. How's that work?
Well, what happens when you make toast? You have dry, you get dust in the air. You inhale it. It gets on your skin. It's in the laundry. It's on their clothes. They put their clothes in the same washer and dryer as your clothes. And over time, you begin to absorb it through your skin because it's on your clothes because it was on their clothes in the washer and dryer.
So you're saying we're that sensitive to gluten. We're incredibly.
That's correct. Even say the word, you're going to die.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Doc, what is the worst offending grains? Just spend a minute on each of the three worst offending grains.
Wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Those four. Okay. For instance, rice doesn't have any gluten in it. Millet doesn't have any gluten in it. Okay.
Quinoa,
Buckwheat doesn't have any gluten in it.
quinoa's okay, right? Quinoa?
Quinoa is okay. Okay. And you got to be careful. And you need to, if you come across some strange grain that they're eating someplace, you want to ask Siri, is there gluten in this grain? And they sell gluten-free oats. There are no such things as gluten-free oats. They should go to jail. The gluten in oats is called gliadin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So, Caroline,
Yeah,
does that help?
Carolyn, no oats.
Okay, does that help, Caroline? Did you have a question for Doc?
Well, I want to tell him my success story. So anyway,
Okay.
I called up the company and I was given the bone and joint pack and extra glucogel for the dosing for how much I weigh. And in less than a month, it might have been 2 or 3 weeks, I was pain-free, walking normal. I could run and jump, did not need the cane my neighbor gave me. And then a while later, I got invited to be a health consultant, and I'm on the call team. And I'm not kidding you. Then the next success was, for about 40 years, I was taking 3 different thyroid medications. And after introducing the Ocean's Gold, I absolutely take no medications of any kind, no aspirin, no thyroid, no pain pills, and no knee braces, nothing. All is well. I'm rocking and rolling at 72.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that testimony, because everybody in this listening audience, if they do the right thing and, follow what Alan's doing here, I just can't thank Alan and Paul enough for getting this going here, that you need to get rid of all the bad foods, no fried foods. I mean, when you look at the fried chicken that, they sell on TV and these fried chicken companies and everything, I mean, there's a 1/4 inch of wheat, fried wheat on top of the chicken. Okay. So you got to watch it. Okay. It comes in every form. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils of any kind, absolutely no wheat, barley, rye, or oats in any way, shape, or form. There are no such things as gluten-free oats. No, no, no. And then absolutely no sugar. And then you throw in the 90 essential nutrients. Okay, if you have these health problems, we have secret sauces for over 900 different diseases. And this is where the book, Let's Play Doctor, epigenetics, it'll kind of walk you through this stuff. Dead doctors don't lie. And people always ask me, well, why are you saying so many bad things about doctors? I mean, all they're out there doing is healing people. I said, no, they're not healing people. They're relieving symptoms, which is not necessarily a bad thing, relieving symptoms, but they're telling you that there's no cure for this disease, which there is, and they're relieving symptoms, and they're milking you like a cow. You come in every month, you pay them a fee, they write you a prescription, they get a little kickback from the pharmaceutical company, and so they're making this living by this circle that you keep doing because you're not getting rid of the problem. Okay, and so people say, well, so why are you so against doctors? And I said, well, because only a dead doctor won't lie. And that's where I came up with the title to my book and my audio cassette tape and my CD now, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's in 9 languages, Alan. It's in 9 languages. We've sold over 600 million copies of that CD.
But they're lying because they're ignorant of how the body works, right?
But it still kills people.
Right.
Where is their investigative curiosity? I've been doing this for people for years and years and years, and I never cure anybody. I want to know, and they haven't gone to the library for 15 minutes. Well, now they don't have to go to the library. Siri will give them the answer in 3 seconds.
So Carolyn, what else did you discover about Doc and the work he's done and the products he's created?
Well, what I discovered was I've been able to help a lot of people over the years, and I've learned from them not to create any of those health concerns that they have and that my family died of. I didn't know of this when they were alive. So I'm so thrilled to receive calls from people in their 90s and 80s that haven't given up on themselves, and they don't want root canals. They want nutrition to heal their body. They want to get off drugs and have a vibrant health, just like Doc talks about, have all those organs working. And it's just fantastic. And my skin, people think I'm 20 years younger than I am because of these incredible products, what they do on the outside and the inside. I love that Trinity lotion. I use that as my daily cream, and I put it on wounds. It's for wound care. And I put it all over my face and my neck. It's fabulous stuff.
Wow.
But also the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, and the Glucogel and the MSM are also good for healing wounds because you need those minerals to do that, right?
Yep.
And and it's one of those things where by sharing this information with people, I cannot thank you enough. And we need to be doing more church testimonies. We need to be doing city squares, standing up in restaurants and talking to the people in the restaurants and stuff like that, just spontaneously. Getting that information out there is very, very important.
What's good for teeth? Good, strong teeth, healthy teeth.
Okay. Well, teeth are made out of minerals, right? So there's a good start. And so here's, you need to get rid of all the bad stuff so you can absorb the nutrients. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, barley, rye, and oats. There are no such things as gluten-free oats, no sugar. And then I would take, again, I'd use the biggest hammer in my toolbox. And I love it when these people who are 104 years of age who survive COVID, you know, they're on TV, you know, it's like once every couple of weeks, there'll be somebody who's 104. They had the COVID virus and they are surviving, and now they don't have active COVID infections anymore. They still have the antibodies, but they don't have the infection anymore. And these are people who were eating rice and sweet potatoes and vegetables and eggs and meat, and were not eating fried foods. They were not eating bread. Okay, if they're eating rice crackers, okay, they're eating rice crackers for breakfast with butter on them, with cinnamon, as opposed to bagels and French toast and waffles and pancakes and that kind of stuff.
Right. So Carolyn, what are you recommending now? What's happening for you now? How's your health and nutrition intake?
Well, I'm maintaining with the bone and joint pack, the MSM, the CM cream I put in my ears at night and on my jaw and my temples and any other areas that I prefer.
And how old again are you? How old are you?
72 and a half.
There you go.
What is the CM cream, Doc? What's the components
Okay, well,
of that?
CM cream is a topical anti-inflammatory and pain reliever. Okay. You know, I wasn't big on aspirin and stuff like that because you could bleed to death when you have absorption problems. You're not absorbing all the nutrients, so you can make platelets, so you can stop bleeding. And so you see people who take aspirin, you know, for blood thinners because they have blood clot histories and they get all these hemorrhages under their skin and everything. Well, if that happens in your lung or your brain, you can die. And so we made a topical pain reliever called CM cream. And we have a mixture of our aromatherapy oils called trauma oil. Then we have a newer one, which is just a year old, which is called Soothe. It's made from CBD. It comes from hemp. There's no THC in it, so it's legal in all states and everything. You don't need a prescription for it. We have those. And so whether it's our CBD Soothe or our CM cream, you add 4 or 5 drops of the trauma oil to a teaspoon or a tablespoon of either one or both of those and apply it to your knees, because it might take 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to rebuild your knees so there's no pain. So why suffer for another 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more weeks when you can apply these topical pain relievers, which will give you the pain relief as you're healing on the inside.
I got a question from the online chat here. Elevan One says, what can you do from someone who's gained weight because of medication?
Okay, well, usually when people gain weight is because they're not absorbing nutrients, okay? They don't have enough minerals, and so they have a behavior called pica, P-I-C-A. You can look it up in any dictionary, the Dorland Dictionary, okay, or the Webster's Dictionary. Look up pica, P-I-C-A, or you can ask Siri, what does the word pica mean? Okay, it's a behavior where babies eat the crib, they are cribbing because they have mineral deficiency. Horses chew on the top rail of their stall because they're cribbing because they have a mineral deficiency. Grandma used to eat wood ashes out of the stove, out of the fireplace. She would eat dirt out of the backyard. And the kids would eat dirt in the backyard because they have pica. They're missing these minerals and they're eating. Well, back when I was a kid, we didn't have pretzels and potato chips and corn puffs and stuff like that. And there's no calories in wood ashes. But some clever guy said, well, we're letting all these people eat these wood ashes. Let's make some pretzels here and sell them as a snack and make some money. And so they begin with their same behavior where they would have eaten dirt or wood ashes, right? Now they're eating calories. So the underlying issue is a mineral deficiency causing pica, which is what causes people to be overweight.
So medication interferes with mineral absorption? Is that what you're saying?
It can.
Okay.
Or it could, or it could relieve symptoms, okay? But your body's still telling you, eat, because you're missing these nutrients, okay? Your body's still telling you that, even though you don't have pain.
Stop the gluten, stop the sugars, and start eating healthy.
Well, you want to eat like an Asian, eat rice and millet and buckwheat and sweet potatoes. I mean, I have that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. eggs for breakfast. I have 6 eggs a day, soft yolks. I have a steak once a day. I have roast chicken, but it always goes with rice and sweet potatoes. Maybe once a month I'll eat a baked white potato. Okay, now you have to appreciate, again, I'm going to say one more thing. I think I said this at the beginning, but let's go back to it. When you look at the Germans, who are the next door neighbors to the Italians have the highest death rate from COVID. It's 10% in the Italians. They live on nothing but gluten, spaghetti, mostaccioli, bread, Italian bread, all this stuff, right? They're the gluten people. They have the second highest rate of deaths from COVID in the world. They are the #1 death rate when it comes to percentages, 10%. When you look at their Germans, who are their neighbors, they're the #5 number of cases of infections. They're #5 in the world out of 186 nations that reported it. Germany's #5, but they have the lowest death rate, 0.5%, less than 0.5%.
Why is that?
Because they live on potatoes. They're famous German potato salad. Potatoes, corn, and rice. The Germans, they may have some modern hippies in Germany who eat wheat bread and croutons and that sort of stuff and the breakfast of champions. But classically, Germans ate potatoes.
Right. So
it didn't eat wheat.
So any further testimony here, Carolyn? Any things that you've noticed? How long have you been doing the longevity products?
About 7 years. And one of my top formulas includes the HGH Youth Complex, as well as the selenium, synaptive. I mean, I take so many things. I put some of the tinctures in my Tangy Tangerine drink. I also add Z-Radical to that because it's so yummy. I'm telling you, I'm sipping these yummy drinks all day long.
So I have to tell people Z-Radical is a drink that supports your immune system. So it's a good thing, if you have COVID or you're, right now the COVID thing. So you want to put Z-Radical in. If finances are not a problem, add the Z-Radical to your program. Add the pollen burst to it. Okay, you want the grape flavored pollen burst, which has the, it's gluten-free, big words right on the front label, gluten-free. Okay, the pollen burst, and it has SOD in it, which helps your immune system kill the infecting bugs.
What's in the Z-Radical, Doc? What's in that product?
Well, what'd you suspect? What mineral starts with a Z?
I would say
there
the
you
zinc
go.
stuff. That's what Paul asked about.
Yeah, it's zinc and herbs that support the immune system.
Great. Well,
and
Carolyn,
lastly, I start my morning with a dropper full of colloidal silver. That's the first thing in my mouth when I get up in the morning.
And this is all from longevity. You live off this stuff, right?
I do, and I take way more than I even mentioned because it's doing the job that I want it to do, and I'm looking like I want it to, and so it's all good.
Well, talk about some of the things, other products that you've been taking that really help your body.
Okay, the collagen peptides, the, let me see here.
You have a whole cabinet full of stuff, don't you? And then
do you take any vitamin D3? Do you take any vitamin D3?
I do take vitamin D3, and I remember Ben saying to take that closer to bedtime, so I'm taking 2 or 3 of those gel caps at bedtime. Okay. I also take the de-stress this time of year. I take the all year round. I take the seasonal immune. And this time of year, I take at least 1 a day, 1 package. Other times a year, in the past, it was maybe 1 a week for maintenance. I also really like the Super Cell Protector. Some of these things a lot of people haven't heard of, but I'll tell you, when you look into it, is superior. And enzymes, 4 of those a day, 1 at bedtime, 1 a couple ounces of water a few minutes before a meal. And sometimes the root beer belly, I have quite the choices here because it's all good.
And then how's your energy throughout the day? I'm just curious, what's your feeling of waking up in the morning? How does that affect you?
It's really good because I also happen to have a case of Rebound cans and Rebound packages that I add to water. And I really love that grape, gushing grape pollen burst.
What
I
is
got
that,
into
Doc,
that
you're
years
holding up?
ago.
This is Rebound. She's talking about Rebound. That's our sports drink with 100 nutrients in it. It's the only sports drink with 100 nutrients in it. You know, Gatorade might have 2 or 3 nutrients in it. Powerade and so forth. They're primarily sugar. They're energy drinks. They're primarily sugar and caffeine. This is the only sports drink that has 100 nutrients in it.
No sugar? No sugar?
Well, it has a little bit of sugar, okay, but and it's made in green tea is the liquid base. Green tea is the liquid base, okay, and so it's one of those things where this is replacing everything you're sweating out. And of course, if you're staying away from the bad stuff, you're going to maximize. You're going to get this. And we have we have it in powder. Also, we have it in powder, so you can take a powder as opposed. You don't need to carry it. I can't carry these cans with me on the airplane. They're heavy and they're liquid, so I do take the powder with me. You get the canisters, so you can make a whole 5-gallon thing for a team. It also comes in a box with 30 little packets in it, so you can make individual drinks. It will look like this in our Icelandic water. This has the Rebound in it, okay.
You put Rebound in the water there.
In the Icelandic water, which is our glacial water from Iceland.
That's your water. That's your product.
That's our water. Yeah, that's my company.
Oh, and you get it from Iceland, huh?
Yes.
Wow. So you can get that also at
through Youngevity. Yeah.
The Icelandic. Go ahead,
So,
Paul.
Look, can I ask you a question, Doc and Caroline? I know you guys mentioned the tangy tangerine, and in my conversations with George Norrie, he tells me that that's helped him a lot. Can you guys talk about that a little bit and how that might help me or Alan, who don't really know that much about this?
Yes.
Okay, you want to start out first, Carolyn?
Yes. What I noticed is when I got the bone and joint pack, the extra glucogel, MSM, all of that for my bones and joints, I started losing weight as well. The tangy tangerine was so nourishing to me that I had no more cravings, and I really
no more pica.
Right. I really didn't realize I was losing weight, and I ran into a girlfriend after not seeing her for a couple months, and she says, "Wow, what are you doing?" Because I don't get on the scale. It's how I feel, not you know, a number on the floor. And also just this week, just this month, I got the Burn Metabolic Booster Chews and the Reverse, because I just learned about these. The Reverse is the ultimate anti-aging formula. And then these chews, something nourishing and beneficial. So no kidding, that's what's happened for me.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to give my answer for that. And then I got to go here. I have 2 more hours of radio coming up, and I apologize.
I know.
But when you're looking at the tangy tangerine, it contains 98 of the 90 essential nutrients. The only thing that's not in there, either in the powder or the capsules or the liquid, is the omega-3s. Okay, because it's an oil, so, you know, it's an essential fatty acid, so you can't put it in there because it'll just turn into soap. And so we keep that in soft gel capsules separately, so you take that as a supplement with your meals, the EFAs, omega-3s, okay, and which are essential to, you know, actually prevent blood clotting. But you also are taking the 90 essential nutrients, or excuse me, you're taking 88 of the other nutrients in the pollen burst by itself, and then you add the omega-3s to it, you're getting the 90. And we need to do this because our bodies require them. Do you put dirt from Texas into your car, Alan?
If I had a car, I wouldn't put it in, no. But
well, what about dirt from Oklahoma?
No, I don't put any dirt in my car.
Well, come on, there's bound to be some oil in there. That's dirt from Texas and Oklahoma.
Okay, if you think it works, I mean.
No, it won't work. But see, we will take care of our car. We put oil in our car, but and for ourselves, when the doctor says, "Oh, just eat well, you're going to get everything you need from your food." Well, my doctor says I get everything I need from my food. Bam, you're dead. I have to run, guys.
I know that's a great way to end it there, Doc. Eat well, stop eating gluten, listen to Doc, and check out everything he has
to offer. Supplements.
Yeah. This is the best. Okay, I've been talking to Doc Wallach, joined by Paul Andrews and Carolyn Clancy. You go, Doc. I'm just going to finish up with
Okay.
Carolyn.
God bless you. Thank
We'll
you
be
so
here-
much.
Take
we
care,
will
Doc.
be here
Thank you.
next
Thank you.
week- Next week with Doc as well. That is 1 p.m. East Coast time. And I guess that's 12 p.m. Pacific time on this YouTube channel, and also in the same Zoom room if you know the Zoom link. But
That's
Caroline,
10 Pacific time, Alan.
what's that?
10
Pacific.
Pacific time.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry, 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern. Back with Doc next Wednesday. Carolyn, do you want to just like finish it up here and just tell us how how you turn other people onto this? How do you approach people? What do you do? I mean, you've had some great benefits, but then how do you communicate that to other people?
Well, as I'm out in my daily life, I do actually have a business card and some flyers and pamphlets. And people have noticed a difference in me, so they ask. Or I get compliments on my skin all the time. What do you do? You know, like what cream, lotion, and potion? Well, I said I'm doing it from the inside out, and on top of that, I use the Trinity lotion. And so I start up the conversations, or I have something you might be interested in. Um, you know, I might be in the same aisle in a store as someone else, and they're you know, looking challenged with some health concerns, or they're using a cane. I said to myself I would never use a cane, and I did because it hurt so bad and I was walking sideways. And I'm not kidding you. The best thing I did was call the company, get on board with what was recommended for what I weigh, and get the results. My only regret is that my family is in the other world, and I didn't know about this soon enough so that they could still be here with me.
Right.
And so, but I do, I'm assertive. I'm gregarious and assertive, and I go up to people. Or if I see somebody with a challenge, I say, you know, I have something that might help you. Check it out.
Where are you living?
I live in Santa Barbara, California since 1977.
Okay, if I'm out there, I will look
So,
you up.
Alan, for
Yeah.
those of you, so those of your listeners who can't see the screen, who
Yeah.
are going to be listening to this interview on New Realities, can you give out the phone number?
Yeah, well, I've been talking to Doc Wallach and our friends here about, and he's put all his knowledge into a company he called Longevity. And for people who want more information, you don't have to buy anything. You just call this number, get information. That's 888-275-7755. 888-275-7755. And just inquire about the product. If you have a health challenge, as you can see, Doc is quite an expert. He has 3 PhDs. He's been working with people and autopsies and animals. And I think he is one of the most knowledgeable people in the health field that I've seen. So I'm very happy to be interviewing him every week. So that's good. Thanks, Paul. Do you want to talk a little bit about tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Who's coming on with us?
Yeah, well, tomorrow at 10 we have Tom.
Chenault.
Yes. Thank you. We have Tom Chenault coming on. He is one of the most articulate people I know. He's a health advocate. He also talks about the relationship between being healthy and being able to earn a living in the health field. And not everybody can do that, but Tom is very successful at that. He's an ex-stockbroker. He's extremely successful. Back in the 70s, he was earning $850,000 a month. I mean, this guy is dynamic, Alan. He's very dynamic, and he can also speak to the health issues that we have today, and is very articulate about helping people build a business in the health field without a lot of stress.
He also has an incredible story about overcoming his alcohol addiction, which is very touching, very powerful. So I recommend just tuning in tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific. It's 1 a.m. Eastern to hear Tom on this new reality show. Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Carolyn. If you want to come back next week, just jump in. Paul, I appreciate you and your connections and everything that we're both interested in, including UFOs. So,
One
Yeah.
last thing I'd like to share.
yes.
My car mechanic always gave me a deal, and his dog was ailing. So I gave him a pack of the Arthrodex and the chews for his aging dog. And that was another successful thing I've done, is sharing some of the products, whether it's a packet, the travel packets, or people that have hosted me when I travel. I bring a Healthy Body Start Pack, the 3, the 90, and I give it to them as a host gift. And it's very much appreciated. So these are some of the ways that I share with people.
Does he have a product for animals? Was that the chews? Is that an animal?
He
No.
had, he has a, yes, he does have some CBD chews and for animals, and then the Arthrodex, and the these are also little chewable tablets. It's in a pack, and so that was nice for me to be able to give that to my mechanic for his dog, who I really love. And he's still alive and moving faster now. German Shepherd.
Well, good nutrition is good for all living creatures. So, I think that's what makes some of this products work. And of course, that's the source of what Doc's been looking for what, 60, 70 years. Well, since he was 9, he's discovered the keys to nutrition. So thanks, guys. Thank you, Paul, so much. And thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. I appreciate everyone tuning in here on the Zoom and on the live chat. Tune in next week. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time on this YouTube channel and on this Zoom call. We welcome people and their questions. See you next time.